From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be one of the hosts for this episode. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
Miss Vicki, we have a guest.
Yes, we do.
We met him at the New York Safety Track event that was held by the Korf brothers. That was fantastic. Alan was lusting after his Coyote swapped Mustang since it was a Fox body and just a little bit faster than Alan's, but we'll talk about that later. He is involved mostly with Time Attack, but also involved with the Emirates. So we're going to talk about all of that. And with that, we have our guest for this podcast, Andrew Purvis. Welcome to the podcast, Andrew.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Excellent. It took us a little bit of time to get this done. I think we met several weeks ago, and I'm being generous. I think it was months, but whatever. So just in case my intros aren't great and people aren't familiar with you already, could you kind of give a little background on yourself?
Absolutely. I race a.
Does he? Does he race? You think he races? I don't know. He's very excited though.
Zoom.
That was awesome.
Zoom is killing me. I don't know what's going on.
It was fantastic. You sounded so excited and
yeah. I got nothing going on my phone too. I don't know why. I used to use Zoom all the time. Click.
And they're racing.
So there we have it, folks.
That's it, folks. Have a nice evening.
All right. So if you got any questions, let us know. GarageHeroesAndTraining@gmail.com. Thanks for coming on.
That was funny.
If we're still live, I'll just go right into it.
Yeah, go for it.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, I'm Andrew Purvis, Marine Corps vet, Fordham student, live in New York, and I race a 1989 Mustang GT. I bought it pretty much bone stock when I was 19. That was, 16 something years ago. And over the years, it just got crazier and crazier and crazier. And now that I have a little garage behind my house, I bought a house in 2016 and I said, all right, now I'm going full tilt. Let's get out there. It started as a pushrod 5.0, nothing fancy. I did full maximum motorsport suspension. I ended up going to Feel 441 coilovers, bigger tires, bigger brakes, yada, yada. And then, like I said, over the years, it's just getting crazier. I ended up dropping a valve on my 306 Windsor at NJMP back in 2019 in August. And that really set me back financially and emotionally because I spent all this money on building a 306 Windsor and machine work and balancing and this and aftermarket, everything. And with less than 2,000 miles, I blew the motor. So I ended up selling all the Windsor pushrod stuff. I had a spare T5 transmission. I had a spare block. I was like, I'm done with this pushrod stuff. And that's when I ended up deciding to go a Coyote swap. So come April 2020, I started calling local junkyards. And to my disbelief, I found a junkyard in Yonkers, like 10 minutes from me, that had two Gen 2 Coyotes out of an F-150 pickup truck, which is exactly what I wanted because the F-150 motors are so much cheaper than the Mustang motor.
Mm-hmm.
If I call a junkyard and say, hey, I want a 2017 Mustang motor, they're going to charge me 10 grand. But if I say, hey, I want a 2017 pickup truck motor, no one really bats an eye. So I ended up getting 24,000 mile Gen 2 Coyote for $2,800. And, I think that's a great deal for what that motor is and how reliable and how much power it makes.
Yeah.
So I ended up putting a Gen 3 Mustang intake manifold on it and long tube headers. And it's got a transmission out of like an 01 to 04 Mustang. It's called a TR3650, which is a direct bolt on. It's the cheapest, best bang for your buck transmission for a Coyote. And it's still clutch cable. So you don't have to convert to hydraulic because the transmissions that come on the new Mustangs, it's all hydraulics, so it's just more money, and you got to cut the trans tunnel, and you know how it is, it just snowballs. So long story short, I ended up going Coyote swap. I did it myself and a bunch of friends in the backyard, and here we are, just chugging along. And then come July, I met you guys up in New York, so
Mm-hmm.
it's been quite the ride.
Yep, it has been.
Yeah. So, how did you decide to get into racing?
So growing up when I was a little kid, I always loved cars, seeing the hot rods and the muscle cars and all this stuff driving around. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut initially, and I had a couple neighbors that had some Fox Mustangs and just, people that were in high school when I was in, seventh grade or whatnot. There's, Fox Mustangs were kind of like the cool hot rod Mustang growing up, and I just instantly fell in love with it. My friend Alberto, his father he actually has his second one still to this day, but he had a brown LX hatch. And I was so young, I didn't even know what it was. It just made a lot of noise and it looked fast. And I was like, I want it. Um, and then just little by little, as I aged, you started kind of hearing about Formula One and NASCAR and different drag racing stuff. And, my father was big in cars. He had a 64 GTO growing up that he hopped all up and street raced. He had a 68 Camaro. He had a 56 Chevy. So, listening to his stories about street racing his friends, back in the 60s and 70s was always like a fun time. And it was just kind of like always, you come home and, NASCAR was on. And I'm not a huge fan of oval track. I actually don't really follow NASCAR too closely. I do like their road course stuff. I'd love to go to a Watkins Glen race when NASCAR's there, but just as I age, I just got more in love and deeper with cars. And then you turn 19 and you get your first car, and you're like, I had a little Escort GT stick shift, and I worked on that a little bit, and that was my daily. And then I was 19, and later that year I ended up buying the Fox, and I always knew I want an '89 Mustang. I want the GT. It was, the 5.0 motor and stick shift. And it was just like love at first sight. And I remember buying it from this dude in Connecticut. He was moving to Florida. So he put a Craigslist ad, and he's like, everything's got to go. So I ended up driving over to his house. And this was before smartphones, before, navigation. So I'm like printed out, MapQuest directions. This guy lived like an hour and a half from me. So I pull up, I think it was on a Sunday, and I pull up. The ad said he had an '89 Mustang GT black. I said, perfect. That's literally what I want. I kind of wanted a white one, but I didn't really care much about the color. So I pull up to this guy's house, and I see a black LX, hatch Mustang. It's not a GT, it's an LX. So I call him, and I'm kind of pissed because I just drove like an hour and a half. I'm in some strange area. And I'm like, guy, I'm outside. Your ad says it's a GT. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm outside. There's an LX out here. He goes, oh no, that's my neighbor's. Keep going. Take a right. So I take the right, and I drive down the street, and there it is, the '89 GT. And he threw me the keys. He was like, let's go for a test ride. And it was love at first sight. I mean, I was 19 with a little 100 horsepower Ford Escort, going from that to a, V8 with all torque. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. So I ended up, coming back the next day and bringing him money and stuff. I got it for $2,500. It was incredible.
Wow.
Mm.
So you're living your best Vanilla Ice life, huh?
I'm trying.
Got your 5.0. Okay. All right, cool. So any goals, dreams, bucket list tracks or races that you want to get into?
Next year, so this year I was all over the East Coast. We'll get into that in a minute. I definitely want to do next year. I'd like to do Barber Motorsports Park. I hear amazing things about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to check out Ginger Man, NCM. There's so many tracks that I keep finding out about. I kind of want. I'd love to go to COTA, Global Time Attack with Super Lap Battle. They run there.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually February every year.
Yep.
I'd love to go to COTA, Austin, Texas. That's going to be a haul. I'm up in New York. And
Right.
then eventually, when I, really roll into some funds, I'd love to ship the car to Cali, get on Sonoma, do the, Laguna Seca on some of the Cali tracks. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to travel, do all the racetracks. My goals are I want to get a competitive license with NASA, and I want to become an instructor with NASA. And next year, I'm going to start actually wheel to wheel racing with EMRA, and I'd like to get into time trials with NASA, and then eventually wheel to wheel racing with NASA. So just little by little, like you said before, right now I've been focused more on the time attack stuff, just kind of learning the car, getting my feet wet, getting out there, getting the seat time. But eventually, I'd like to actually, start racing. So
Cool.
So, do you have a motto that you live by when you're racing, or do you have something that you tell yourself when you're on the track, or keep you motivated?
I mean, I really like. I'm a big fan of Steve McQueen and his, famous quote that racing is life. Anything before or after is just waiting. And that's,
Good.
it's yeah, it keeps me motivated. I mean, we're working a lot and life and bills and everything else that goes around. So it's nice to, sometimes you go through the highs and lows, you're wrenching on the car, something breaks, you're spending all this money. But when you're out there with your friends and you're behind a wheel of a machine, a car that you've built since you were 19, like the feeling of accomplishment is incredible.
Yeah.
Anyone can go out and buy a new Porsche or a new Corvette, or, anything, Beamer. But to take something and, a decade, 15 years of wrenching and trying different tires and different brakes and second, third motor, and you broke this, and you're getting out there and you start going faster and you start setting some decent times, and people are coming up to you and they're like, dude, did you buy this car like this? And I'm like, absolutely not. I made this with my bare hands, man. This is,
Yeah.
a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So it's
Hmm.
just incredible. It's such an incredible experience. I mean, meeting you guys and going all over and meeting people, and it's just amazing. The track community, the passion, it's incredible. There's nothing like it. When we have those long track weekends, and you're camping out with your friends and you're having cold beer at night and you're talking about different racing lines and breaking at this and breaking at that. It's just like what more could you ask for? It's incredible.
Yep.
It's a rush. It's a rush. It's an adrenaline
Absolutely.
rush each weekend. Get the blood pumping.
So speaking of the low light of your season, meeting us at the New York safety track,
Failed car.
our one failed car. It turned out to be nothing, but it was fine.
Well, we
Um,
busted the mirror at the other, busted the window at the other one. It
did
started
we?
yeah, the actually it was the Civic was starting to fail. That's when the beginnings of the
Oh,
blown
yeah.
gaskets were happening.
That's not his fault though.
Well, I got that awesome video of you guys with the Civic spinning out in front of me, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was Miss Vicki, and allow me to put it on right now. No, I'll do that
Oh, you
later.
got it. I was gonna say, I don't know if I sent you it or not.
Oh, you did.
Okay, good.
It's here. Don't worry. I have it. I have it
That
ready.
was the race that Alan went to go put the window back into the car.
Oh, that window. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it shattered in his hand. Just like he just tapped it on the side. He's not sure if the sun hit it and then it got cool real fast or whatever, but he just tapped it on the side of the car and the whole thing just fell to pieces. And then he's got part of it like in each hand, like what the hell just happened? And there's just a puddle of just tempered glass just on the ground. It was hysterical.
It was. So we went there because Ian and Mario invited us, and then we end up meeting you and talking to you a bit. And Alan, his tongue was literally dragging on the ground because your Fox body is slightly better than his Fox body. We can talk about that at some point. But
Absolutely.
how was that event for you, and what did you think of that track? Because we'd never been there before.
It was my first time as well. I love it. It's kind of local to me. It's not too far. I also just found out recently that they do clockwise too. They do backwards.
Mm.
And I know Palmer does that too. Palmer is a counterclockwise track that they also run clockwise. So that's cool. So Mario, I met him that weekend. Long story short, I help out with tech inspection and I help out with being an instructor for EMRA, which we'll get into in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, Mario emailed one of our guys at EMRA and was like, "Hey, I'd like to help out. I'd like to get involved. I do endurance racing and I've done time attack. I got a couple of Miatas, yada yada." And so his emails was forwarded to me, and they were like, "Hey, reach out to Mario, touch base. He wants to help us out. He seems like he knows a lot. Very knowledgeable guy." So we ended up having a Zoom conference call for like 2 hours, and we're talking aero and tires and what track he's been to, and it's again the passion. We talk for hours, right? And so he ends up telling me, he's like, "Listen," he goes, he lives up in Ithaca, New York. It's, I don't know, 4 hours from me. I don't, it's a couple hours north. And he was like, dude, what are you doing July 4th weekend? I'm actually hosting a track day at New York Safety Track on the 5th. And I said, dude, I keep hearing about that track. I'd love to do it. Sign me up. So we're touching, once a month we touch base. Hey, how's it going? Yada yada. And he was telling me that he's like on the board at Pineview Run, which is this other small track also up there. And I said, well, dude, I said, Mario, I said, if I'm taking a 3 or 4 hour drive north, like why don't we do Pineview one day and New York Safety Track the other day? And he was like, that's a brilliant idea. So we ended up doing a double header. We did Pineview Run July 3rd, and then July 4th, I hung out at his place, barbecued, grilled, had a couple beers, had a great time. And then July 5th, we went to New York Safety Track. So it was like a perfect little, weekend getaway. He, rented the track. The fees was like $150. I said, dude, I can spend $150 at a bar. You're telling me I could, $150 to get on a racetrack? Like, let's go. So that's how I met Mario.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of that track though? Because I wanted to do Pineview and that, but our schedules just didn't let us get up there for both, and they both are kind of fun.
So
Little.
Pineview is a go-kart slash Miata track. It's
Mm-hmm.
way too small for my Mustang,
Yeah.
and I actually don't run cooling fans. So since there's so many turns at Pineview, my water temp started going through the roof because I wasn't getting enough airflow through the front, coolers because you're turning like 90%. You're always at an angle. So I ended up only doing a couple laps and then the car got hot and then I had to pull off. So it was kind of useless for my car. Mario ended up letting me drive one of his Miatas, which was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's a small car, Civic Miata. You might have fun. It's very short, very technical, a lot of turns. New York Safety Track, I like. I definitely want to go back. It was technical and fun. It kind of reminds me of Palmer, but just easier and more fun. I don't know if you guys have been to Palmer,
Yeah.
Massachusetts, a very technical track. I
Not
liked it. I definitely want to go back.
cool. I think the tracks are fun, tons of fun. But I wouldn't want to go 10/10 because there's a lot of trees.
It is. It
Really?
reminds me of um, Summit Point, Shenandoah. There's a lot of trees down there too,
Yeah.
and deer apparently too.
Oh,
I don't know if you
that's
guys.
that's fun.
Yeah, there's actually videos on YouTube of people tracking and racing and deers running across the track and people hitting deer. So
Oh,
it's pretty wild down there.
Mm-hmm. It's a fun little track though.
It is, and I agree. I don't know if I'd want to go tense there as well. It's definitely fun. It was cheap. Um,
hmm.
it's a cool story. I guess it's some like multimillionaire guy that lives in the infield and lands his plane on the main straight, and I guess they just kind of turned an airstrip into a track. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
it's definitely family run, from what I understand.
indeed. So when we were there, you were interested as being associated with Emra, and there was a couple blank faces around the paddock. We did have a mixture of motorcyclists and car people, so perhaps everybody shouldn't know, but they should. So while we're on the podcast, and I've got plenty of tape in this machine, would you like to get into what Emra is and what you guys are involved with?
Absolutely. So Emra is a family-owned organization, and we do track days. We do time attack. We do HPDE. We have formula races. We also do head-to-head racing or wheel-to-wheel racing as well. It's a very friendly organization. I mean, we tell people all the time, you could show up in a bone stock Camry and get out on track and have fun, or you can show up in a 700 horsepower Corvette, track monster. So it's for all different experience, drivers from brand new novice students to semi pros. Um, we try to promote it as much as we can on Instagram and YouTube. The website is emraracing.org. Feel free to check it out. We usually run from April to October-ish, East Coast tracks. Um, and when I travel and meet people on the track, everyone's heard of SCCA and NASA and Global Time Attack and these big, big names. So we're trying to kind of get more traction toward EMRA and get people coming out and volunteering and helping out And I can't speak enough. We got a great group of people, John, Jesse. I mean, the list goes on. We have people with all sorts of experience, all different cars. I mean, it's just an awesome time. We usually start at Lime Rock Park in April, and we'll go all over the East Coast for tracks. And we're like I said, we're building the brand and trying to get our names out there. We've kind of teamed up with Global Time Attack. I know last year we like kind of dual hosted an event up at Palmer, Massachusetts with them, and we're just kind of little guys on the block, but it's an amazing time. I try to promote them as much as I can. I've talked to people, with a bone stock Mini Cooper, and they're like, "Hey, I'm kind of intimidated. What do I do? What kind of tire?" And I'm like, "Stop." I said, "Guy, get a helmet, get some gloves, please come out. I'll help you out as your instructor."
You just
It's
show up.
exactly like I'm telling you, we've had guys with bone stock Miatas, 150,000 mile Miatas with, no name struts and shocks, and they're out there having the time of their life with 100 horsepower. So it doesn't, you guys obviously know it doesn't take much. You don't need a Corvette, you don't need a Viper, and it's just such a fun time. It's big family. Everyone's down to help out. We got people playing music, people grilling, helping each other out with wrenches and tools, and it's literally such a family event. I can't speak highly enough about EMRA. It's amazing.
So is it just HPDEs or does it involve racing as well?
So we have a time attack series, like a tournament style championship with points and different classes. And then we also have wheel to wheel racing for the more experienced guys.
Hmm.
And there is FRCC, which is a formula racing series. So a lot of people come up with, these older formula cars, and they have races as well. So we've had people that, run in NASA and compete with the NASA championship, and they kind of use the EMRA events as like a test and tune. We go out to NJMP. We've been to Palmer. Um, we were talking about doing New York Safety Track this year. We've, talked about Club M up in New Hampshire. We've gone to Summit Point, like I said, most of the East Coast stuff, and a lot of different guys, like I said, SCCA or NASA, they come out, and it's a cheap, great time to get on track and test different setups and network, and it's just a mixed community of experience in cars, and it's such a great time.
Listen to him. He's so excited.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's like
He's just jazzed just even talking about it. Look, you can just feel it.
because honestly, most of my friends aren't into cars, aren't into racing. So when you do meet someone that races or shares this enthusiasm, whether it's at a bar, a restaurant, whatever, you're just like, what do you drive and what kind of tires? And I'm glad. Years ago, a friend back in 2016 told me, "Dude, you got to start an Instagram account for this race car. This is you'd really be able to help out and talk to people and network." And I can't I'm so happy I started because I've had phone calls with guys in Colorado and Tennessee and North Carolina and out in Cali. They're like, "Hey, what do you think of this coilover setup? Or what did you do for the rear end? Or what gears are you running?" I can't, it's like once a week. I tell people, like, "Dude, here's my phone. Give me a call. There's way too much information to be DMing back and forth on Instagram. Let's have a phone call. I'd love to help out." And it's guys that have a bone stock Fox Mustang, and they, just like I said, they want to get on track and go have fun. And then there's guys I've talked to that have 10 times the experience as me, and they're running championship Mustangs and this and that, and enclosed trailers, and they're like, "What do you run for spring rates and aero?" And it's just such an awesome time. It's amazing. It's like this is all I want to do is just make money and go racing.
Yeah.
Indeed. It's kind of like sometimes Miss Vicky, especially with some of her friends, when she starts talking cars and her eyes glaze over, it's kind of funny to watch from a distance.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's like I don't have enough guy friends right now that I can just call and just talk cars with. Because, just sometimes I don't know when to shut up because I get so excited about it. They're just like, uh-huh.
Well, even I got a couple car friends that they're more into the drag racing scene,
Mhm.
or they're like the carburetor kind of guy. So, when they look at my stuff and they're like, "Oh, fuel injected," and I got big slicks all the way around. They're like, "Why do you have big tires up front?" I'm like, "Oh, well, the car turns, it goes around corners." And they're just like, "Really?" Like, so it's just even, or you meet the guys that are just like car show, car meets, waxed cars and slammed to the ground. And it's just, it's the community is so diverse between,
Mm-hmm.
racing, drag racing, and street. It's incredible.
It is. And it's the people that you meet are, with very, 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 very few exceptions, they're all
Hmm.
awesome. And
Hmm.
they'll like give you a part and teach this to get you out there so you can have fun out there with them. So
Absolutely.
it's tremendous. Tremendous.
So how has your 2022 season been so far?
I have zero complaints. Like I said, we started in April. So this year was interesting for me because this year I was focused on getting out and trying as many new tracks as possible. Where I know a lot of my friends will focus on like a NASA championship or an EMRA championship. I just was like, dude, I want to go to the Glen. I want to go to Road Atlanta, New York Safety Track. I mean, I got the car back together on the ground under her own power last October. So October of last year, I did Lime Rock Park. November, I went to Lightning with NASA. I went to VIR with Track Club USA. It was a big Mustang event. VIR is incredible. I don't know if you guys been, but that's amazing track.
We're
And
trying.
then I'm planning on
Keep
going to
trying.
Hyperfest next year. That's
Yeah.
something you guys should look into. And then I went to Club Motorsport last November as well, up in New Hampshire. It was freezing up there, but it was a fun track. So this year rolled around, and I wanted to go to Road Atlanta for years. Global Time Attack goes down there, and that was incredible. So in April, I did Lime Rock. Then I went to Watkins Glen, and I sadly stuffed the car into a tire wall. So that's why the front was kind of all banged up and mangled. But we ran it all season, and I know it didn't look pretty, but I had a lot of fun. Um, and then yeah, May I was in Road Atlanta. June I went to Mid Ohio. One of my part suppliers and main sponsors, Road Race One, they hosted Nick and Sean, big Mustang guys. They hosted a big Mustang event at Mid Ohio. The Porsche Car Club of Mid Ohio was hosting the event, so we had like a mix of Porsches, BMWs, and then all Mustangs. It was such a great time. They put on a great weekend. I think next year we're going to go to Nelson Ledges, which is another track I've never been to. But those guys, Sean and Nick at Road Race One, amazing time. So that was June. And then July, I did Pine View and New York Safety Track. And then August, I did NJMP with EMRA and then NJMP again with Global Time Attack. And I said, all right, that's it. April to August, I said, I spent too much money with trailers and food and hotels and,
Mhm.
tires. I said, okay. So I brought the car home in August. I chopped off the nose. I'm doing a tubular front end. I got the motor out. I'm doing some oil mods in the motor. And I plan on getting it all back together and getting out there for April next year. So this year was great. I traveled all over the East Coast, had an amazing time. Honestly, zero. I mean, I've met awesome people, networked, and it was amazing.
Cool. Well, if we asked you about how this year went, we got to talk about next year. What do you think next year's goals are going to be?
I'm doing a lot more aero on the car, and I'm doing some oil modifications on the motor just to reliable, keep her happy. I'm adding an AccuSump and a crank scraper and just a couple things to really keep the oiling system happy so I can, beat the hell out of this motor and not worry. Like I said, I want to go to Hyperfest next year at VAR. I hear that it's an incredible time. Like 1,000 people show up, and music, and parties, and DJs, drifting, racing, all sorts of fun stuff. And I also want to go back to VAR, so it's like a win-win. I'm doing Hyperfest, and it's at VAR. I'd like to do a lot more EMRA events. Like I said, I want to get my instructor's license and competition license with NASA, and then I'll probably do a couple more global time attack events. So I got a lot of plans. I don't know if I'm going to travel as much and do a lot of new tracks. I think I'm going to kind of stay more on the East Coast and just focus on driving and more of a championship style season.
Are you going to try for one specific one or TBD?
It's probably going to be EMRA and NASA. I want to do wheel to wheel racing with EMRA and really start to get my feet wet. And then once I get the competitive license and get enough seat time and events under my belt with NASA, I can start doing wheel to wheel with them. The thing with NASA is their classes, it's all power to weight ratio. Because my car makes a decent amount of power, I actually have to add weight. So I'm going to add some ballast weight on the passenger rear because that's the lightest wheel on the car. So I need to get as much weight in the rear as possible. So I got to figure out what, like, I think right now I'm in TT2 for their time trial
Okay.
um, class, and I'd
Hmm.
like to bump down to TT3. So I need to add like 200 pounds to the car. So I got to figure something out.
I can right seat for you.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to next year, just getting seat time and going out and going faster. And, we'll see. I say that, I don't want to do a lot of traveling, and then, some crazy event's going to come up and I'm going to be sitting there, pondering. So
Cool.
what about you? You guys do more endurance racing, right? Don't you do lemons or champ car?
Uh, we don't limit ourselves. We'll do
We're
anything.
growing. We're
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah, we'll do anything we can fit into the schedule. So next year we're going to have one lap of America is on my list, and Vicki, we haven't done a goals list yet, so I don't know what she's going to be working on, but that's my big one. And then I'm probably going to travel less next year.
I'm probably going to
Mhm.
do the Boston to Boston rally again
Oh, what's that?
because
It's
it's just a fun road rally, and we're going to take one of the Sunday Cup cars to go do it.
Does it need to be
Uh,
registered with plates and insurance?
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. I'm out.
yeah. But our goal is we've been trying a couple of years to get down to BIR, so that is definitely on the goal for me. We have people from the south that we can meet halfway, and we've been just trying to get there, and just things have just not lined up properly for us to do so. Um, and that is most likely we always usually do like a one away race.
Hmm.
I wouldn't mind at some point going back down to Road Atlanta because that was a lot of fun.
Road
Hmm.
Atlanta is incredible.
It is, and I know that
So
there's what
go on.
is
I'm
it
sorry.
the South Carolina. What track is they use down there?
CMP.
Yeah, the CM. I've
You
been
got
to CMP
CMP,
either.
you got NC car, you have Dominion and VA. There's also um we just mentioned it earlier. Now I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me.
Yeah,
Down there in that area, there's a lot of good tracks.
yeah. We haven't been a lot down that way. We kind of got bogged down a little bit. So our at home schedules have tightened a bit. So we're waiting. At some point, that'll free up, and we will probably be hitting the road more in the off season. We're kind of summer bound at the moment, only for racing, and then
Hmm.
encouraging Bill to go ahead out and take one of the bigger cars out to go and do some fun racing at some other tracks with some of the friends that we have.
And that's the best part about going down south is I went last November, like a week from now. I think I went like 13, 14, 15 or something last year.
Hmm.
And you go down, it's I mean, today it was like 45 in New York. It's not that hot. But, you go down to VIR and it's still 68 degrees down there in mid-November. So you're like, man, I could really do some November and December events,
Right.
Hmm.
Um,
You just head south for better weather.
mhm. I'd love to do, I mean, I'm terrible at it on the Sims, but I'd love to do like Sebring and Daytona, the infield, and, really get down to those Florida tracks. I'm sure there's more out there.
Hmm. Oh,
Hmm.
One of the, go on.
no, I was saying there's tons of tracks. Everybody's like, what's your favorite track? I'm like, the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I something else that I'd like to start kind of getting my feet wet. There's a guy I sold him some Mustang parts at the beginning, the middle of the summer, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. He used to track a Fox. Now he does endurance racing with a Miata. And he called me up a couple months ago and he was like, I would love for you to be one of my co-pilots on my team, racing my Miata. And I said, dude, are you kidding me? That's amazing. How can I help out? So that might be something else that I start to do is start to actually track, other people's cars and kind of getting more to the club racing. And I know
Hmm.
AER does a lot of the endurance stuff among, Champ Car and the 24-hour lemon stuff. So that would be something I'm kind of interested in is maybe hopping in someone else's car and getting some sessions under my belt, just for the seat time and the experience
Hmm.
and driving something
Hmm.
completely different.
Sure. Yeah. More is better. Always.
Yeah.
That's
It
not
is
a problem.
better.
We do, speaking of car swaps, with Emra, we started this fun thing is usually we'll do parade laps during our lunch break.
Hmm.
So you can take your car out, you don't need a helmet, go on a t-shirt, just kind of, putz around and learn the course a little bit. And even, any, non-drivers, they can pull up again with a pickup truck or a Camry, whatever you have, and just get on track and say, hey, cool, I drove my car on a racetrack. This is fun. So we did down in Lightning, we did a car swap. We put a bunch of people's names on scrap paper. We threw it in a hat, shook up the hat, and we picked. And I ended up driving my friend's EK Civic, which is like the farthest opposite thing from my Fox Mustang. It's
I
front wheel
know.
drive and weighs 1,900 pounds and,
Hmm.
revs up to 9 grand. And then this other guy drove my Fox, and he's a Miata guy. He's got an ND Miata, and he was like, "Dude, this thing is incredible." It's just so that was fun too. We get a bunch of people out for parade laps and have fun, but we're also like driving people's machines. That was a lot of fun just to get in something totally different.
We would go to an HPDE with our friends, and everybody bring their cars, and we'd end up car swapping and just car hopping. And let me take yours out. Sure, I'll take yours out. Just go test this one, go test that one. And it was just an HPDE training event, but it was just really nice to go get track time in other people's vehicles.
Hmm. Just
I
building
think
a
our
resume.
I think our record is one of our friends got out in 8 sessions in 7 different cars.
Yeah, just to have
But it's
fun.
just different because I've been a big rear wheel drive guy my whole life, So if I get a little bit of oversteer, I lift to try to get some little bit, more grip.
Hmm.
And in a front wheel drive car, it's like the opposite. Like the car swings and you just keep your foot in it and point the front wheels where you want to go and the thing will pull. So like I'm driving this guy's and I'm not at the limit. I'm not pushing his car. I'd hate to, go off into the grass,
Right.
but it's just like I'm hearing the motor and he's got a K20 in it and VTEC and all this fun Honda stuff and it's got a ton of power. But I'm like revving it and naturally my mind's like, hey, it's making a lot of noise. You probably want to shift. And I'm probably shifted at like 5 grand. Meanwhile, this guy's spinning like 9,500 RPMs. Like it's
Oh,
just such a
jeez.
different platform. The
Mm-hmm.
car weighs maybe 2,000 pounds. Like it's just front wheel drive, 4 cylinder. It's just the farthest thing from what I'm used to. So it's fun to get out there. Like my buddy Jesse, he's got an all-wheel drive Eclipse, turbocharged. I've driven that for a couple of hot laps. Nothing crazy, but I remember this was also down at Lightning many years. I think it was 2018. He let me take it out for a couple laps, and I just could not believe the amount of grip. All-wheel drive. Like it was just the turbocharge, the boost, the torque, the grip. I was like, dude, this is like 1,000 times different than what I'm used to. Even my friend John, he's got an ATS-V Cadillac, and I just it's a new car and double wishbone suspension and independent rear suspension and all this fun stuff. And I couldn't believe how much grip these cars have. It's just it's just unbelievable.
Hmm. So we do a lot of HPDs, but we do kind of most of our driving just due to sheer hours is usually endurance driving. So we talk
Mm-hmm.
about that a lot, but we don't ever talk about time attack driving
Mm-hmm.
because we've never done it until next year. So just in case people aren't familiar with time attack, do you kind of want to go over what time attack is and we can get into how to do it maybe?
Of course. So time attack is the cars get classified for you got your different classes on modifications and like I said, NASA does it power to weight ratio, EMRA does it by a point system. Every group has like their own rules. Global time attack is extremely aero heavy. It's very difficult for me to be competitive at global time attack because the cars are high horsepower and high aero. So that's one of the goals, like I said earlier, was doing more aero. Anyways, time attack is 10, 20 cars go out on track. You're not technically head to head racing. They usually gap us like every 30 seconds. You send out a car and you try to get a nice couple of clean laps in. But you go out, you do a couple warm up laps, whatever it takes for you. And then you try to set 1 or 2 or 3 hot laps, your best, fastest time. It's almost like a qual session in Formula One. You go out there and you try to set a blitz time and then you pull in. And now you see in your class, who set the fastest time. So you're competing against yourself and the clock, and you obviously want to set the fastest time you can for your class. So it's a great. I think it's amazing because if you get a couple clean laps, you can really focus on, the apex and the braking zones and, really learning your car. Obviously, it's a ton of fun. It's just a little different because I've been running the Toyo RR tires. So I've noticed after a couple laps, they start to get warm and you start to fall off a little bit. So it's almost like you have a small window to set a really fast time and then it's over. It's like you gotta lift, you gotta cool down, you gotta like let things come back. So it's probably very different from what you guys are, trying to do. You probably try to set a consistent pace and say,
Yep.
okay, if we can do, a minute 30 per lap, just keep doing a minute 30. You don't have to kill yourself. Where time attack, it's like 110% for that one lap, and then you come in and relax.
Oh wow.
I don't see Vicki doing that for a little bit.
I'm okay.
So, how do you kind of, I guess, what's your approach to getting that? Do you go out and kind of nurse it for the out lap and then jam on it for the first one, or do you kind of
I probably get on it really on the second and third lap. The first lap, I'm scrubbing tires. I'm riding the brakes. I'm trying to get some heat into the wheels and tires and brakes, and just kind of cleaning up the car. And then I'll start to build a little. I have an aim solo that I have in front of me, so I can see like, all right, my warm up lap is my out lap is whatever 20 seconds off pace, and I know what I did, last year or the session before or 2 months ago. So, perfect example, I did like back to back weekends at NJMP Lightning, and I ended up doing like a 113 flat, so I knew the second weekend, I'm like, all right, I want to get into the 112s. Like, what do I have to do? I'm watching my YouTube footage. I'm talking to friends. Like, what did you do with that, going into turn three? And where do you guys eight turn in? And all this different, strategies. It's so much fun. And, here we are. We're back at Lightning the next weekend, and it's like 15 degrees hotter, and the
Mhm.
track is slipperier, and the tires are greasy, and I can't get anywhere near my time. I'm like, I was doing 113, so at least I'm consistent. But I was like, there's no way I'm going faster than a 113. And like, like I said, depending on what tire I'm running, um, I like the Yokohama AO52s. It's a 200 treadwear street tire. Those warm up pretty quickly, so you can get out there, after a lap if you're going full tilt. Where I think the Toyos take a little longer to warm up.
Mhm.
But yeah, I usually, go out, take it easy, especially if it's cold out. If it's, April or May, it might be chilly. It does take some time to get some heat into the tires, but I try to go out there. Me personally, let's say we do a half an hour session. I want to stay out there the full half an hour just for the seat time. But
Right.
I know, I got a couple good clean laps. I might be able to set a nice blistering pace, and then the pace starts to fall off and fall off and fall off. And then if you get traffic, you got to brake early, and now you're kind of getting into a train with some other cars. So that lap or two is wrecked. But I enjoy the seat time regardless.
Mhm. Uh, Miss Vicky,
Yes, sir.
I know I have a plan for Andrew. He doesn't appreciate his 113s. I think we take him in some of our cars, and he'll appreciate his 113.
Absolutely. No, the BMW might give him a run.
I'm looking at the data. No, no.
So the like second or third session, the last time I was at Lightning, I was I have my predictive time on my aim solo, and I was on pace to do like a 112.5, which would have been incredible. And I freaking binned it. I went a little wide. I think it's turn five, the uphill right. And I just touched the rear driver's side tire into the grass, and I spun the car right around and went into the grass. I was like, "Oh, there goes that perfect lap." But
Oh,
it's so much fun, honestly. And even there's been a numerous times where I'm battling my friends. We're going into a corner two or three wide, and it's yeah, obviously that lap is going to be slower, but the wheel to wheel action and experience is, I think it's worth every minute of it. Like we all know, like, okay, you want to go out there and have no one in front of you, have a nice, good, clean two or three laps to set a blistering pace. But at the same time, it's also nice to, oh, there's my friend behind me coming up, or I'm coming up with my friend. Like, talking, we were doing all month now. Let's go out there and battle. But it's it's hard to judge, the pace of my car because it just keeps changing. It keeps, like, I run a little wing in the rear and I had an air dam and a vented hood. And, I try to do a little bit of aero stuff on it, nothing crazy. But now I'm building a plywood splitter. I want to do bigger side skirts. I just made bigger end plates. I want to do a lot more aero work. So next year I might go out and in my mind, I'm like, oh, I should be 2 seconds faster. And then you go out and it's like you're nowhere near your time. They're like, what happened? So it's people, it's hard to explain that. I know you guys totally get it, but it's hard to explain to non-car people. It's like people that play video games or read magazines. They think like, oh, I'm going to put this exhaust on and I'm going to be 5 seconds a lap faster. And I tell people you potentially might be faster. It's not. There's so many variables, like I said, with the changing weather and tires, and if it rains, and it's just so much fun. That's probably one of the lures on why we love this so much. Is it's so challenging.
If it was easy, anybody could do it.
Right?
Actually, anybody can do it. That's kind of one of our mottos, but it's
Just gotta say yes and get up off the sofa and just start.
we
Absolutely.
you know what I think we should do? We should get him in one of our Sunday Cup cars.
Oh yeah.
I would love it because I'm
he'll
sure
appreciate.
it's a low power, low grip. Like, don't you guys run what are those tires that are popular with the endurance guys? RS4s or something?
Yeah, we run our sports mostly. Yeah,
That's like what is it, 300 treadwear? 400
200,
treadwear?
but 200, but it's
Okay.
wears like iron. It'll be a big change for you.
See, that's the thing. It's something that is amazing is you go out and you get in the paddock and you see, the ZR1 Corvette, and you see, these crazy fast cars with huge wings. But what you don't realize is, dude, that might be that guy's first time on the track.
Yep.
So it's always fun. When I was in Mid Ohio, I was chasing some $200,000 Porsche. I don't even know what model. It's just like, center lug wheels and huge aero and fully caged. It's some like Carrera Cup car. And I later found out that there was three different drivers. So there was a driver in like the intermediate class with me, and we were battling. We were, neck to neck around corners, and I would let him pass and he would let me pass, and our times were very close. And here I am, like, dude, I'm just a backyard mechanic with an old Fox Mustang that I built. If I'm keeping up with some $200,000 Porsche, I'm pretty happy. And then,
Exactly.
the real driver gets in it with a more advanced group, and he's like 7 seconds faster than me. I'm like, okay, that humbles me real quick. But that's what I tell people. It's like, you can't just, oh, he's on a faster tire, or oh, he's got more power, or oh, he's got a bigger wing. There's so many variables. Some people are great at certain tracks, and or some people are, great in the dry, and then it might rain a little bit, and it's just like there's no right answer. It's just experience and getting out there and having a blast. And I love it so much. It's incredible.
Indeed, as do we. And it's really, you can always find the flavor of ice cream that you like when you're racing. It could be the car,
Hmm.
it could be the track, it could be the level, it could be the speed, it could be whatever. There's something for
Hmm.
everybody.
Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for coming on. It was really nice to get to know you and to understand a little bit more about time trial racing.
Thank you. I would love, again, like you said, we should do this more often. I love
We can. We got no problems. We podcast like all the time, so not a
it. I'd
problem.
love to.
We did not have time tonight to go through our Fast and Furious story time questions, so we'll have to subject you to some of those next time. But we'll get you. Don't worry. And if you're ever in an event where you're with us, feel free to wave as you pass us. Just say hi. We'll talk to
We'll
you.
definitely have to exchange schedules. I mean, even if I come out and just do a fun, HPD with you guys, or
Yeah.
car swap, or just to try a new track. I haven't been to Pocono in how many years? I don't know if you guys do Pocono often, but
Yeah.
we'll get out there. Before we get off, I have to say a huge thanks to my suppliers and sponsors. We got Maximum Motorsports, we got Road Race One, like I mentioned before, Cosmos Racing Wheels, my good friend Lance at Fox Body FX. Check him out, YouTube, Instagram. He's like my media PR photographer, amazing guy. He lives down in Georgia. I met him when I was at Road Atlanta. And then my oil supplier, Ineos, Japanese oil company. They brought me on, and I'm so grateful. They're giving me oil for the race car. So
Yep. Oh, while we're doing sponsors, we'd like to thank ours. Okay,
Mhm.
good. Very well. That was it. We're all done. So, Andrew, it was great meeting you. It was even better talking to you on this podcast, and we will bother you again and look forward to seeing you at a track soon.
Absolutely. We got to exchange phone numbers, and we'll touch base, and I'll definitely hop on, again. And we're probably only 2 hours away from each other. I don't know
Yeah,
how far you are in PA, but I'm not a stranger, so.
near Scranton, so not too far from you.
Okay. Yeah.
So very cool. Well, sir, you have a great night, and we will bother you again.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Captain's log supplemental.
So, Miss Vicki,
Yes, sir.
do you remember when we were watching those WRL events and some of those grid life events where you used to see the in-car video and it had like the cameras seeing front and back, but it also could see all the telemetry and everything that was going on?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the ones that we liked were taken by the Sentinel system. Remember James came on our podcast earlier?
Right.
We have no excuse since he lent us one for trial and demonstration purposes. We should actually probably put that in one of our cars, maybe
I
two.
really think we should.
I think we should,
I know.
because then we'd look like the immature endurance racing team that we are. Oh wait, I mispronounced that, didn't I? Sorry, my bad. We could
So what does
have
Sentinel system do?
we could have 3 cameras with picture in picture. We could have, if we ever get the AIM system to work, open invitation to anybody from AIM to come on and give us a little bit of love. We need some help. And then we could have all our telemetry on there, and then we can have it streamed live into the paddock or around the world to our millions of fans. We're apparently very popular in Kenya right now. Don't know why, but that's fine. And it can integrate all the available race statistics from like Race Hero and everything. So we could actually see how we're doing on video. We wouldn't even have to carry around our phone anymore. Live.
I love it.